good to go.
They're back from who knows where, drinking beer and betting sports. It's the Better or Worse podcast with Mitch, Randy, and Jersey Joe.
All right, guys, what's going on, fellas? It's another glorious day, another Thursday with an incredible couple great games tonight. And first, we got Bolt Brady. So Bolt is a person of bets. He's got his own podcast. Wait, Bolt Brady and Bro podcast, is that right?
Correct, yes.
And I've heard it a couple times. It keeps me laughing. It's very entertaining and talk a lot of the same stuff. They like the same stuff that we do. We like the NFL. They like talking college sports, and so we wanted to have them on and talk a little bit about handicapping.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Can you give us a little quick background on where you are and what you do?
Sure. So I live out in Northern California. I started to get into sports betting actually in college. A guy that we knew came in and he was holding like $5,000 in cash and in our English class. And so we asked him where he got it, and he mentioned that he won a parlay. And so from there I was kind of hooked.
Wow. All right. And so, wait a second. So parlay is kind of a dirty word for people that bet a lot. Are you a parlay bettor or a straight?
No. In fact, on my podcast, I always recommend not doing parlays. But that's when you're 21 years old. There's a lot of 21-year-olds that do parlays, and he just got super lucky. I mean, I could go into a whole story of how he had to pawn half his dorm room to pay the bets that he lost, but that's for another show.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you feel like is your best sports? What do you feel like you focus on?
That's a good question. I focus a lot on the NFL, but I think, if you talk to the Indy handicapper, they say that's probably the most difficult or one of the most difficult. I think that where I get my largest edge is in basketball, college or pro, and then I golf is up there very high as well.
Really? So
yeah.
When you and first of all, I want to go back. I want to cover golf because that just threw me for a loop. But when you say NFL, are you talking pregame or do you do a lot of in-game?
Pregame, and that's a great question. I do a little in-game with the NFL, but I do a ton of in-game with the NBA and college basketball.
In college hoops, what are you looking for? I know what I look for. What are you looking for in college hoops for in-game?
A lot of times the over/under, like if I think that the over/under in-game is off, like it's too high, and typically the flow of the game's not going that direction, or they're not getting up that many shots. That's kind of the thing that I'll look for there.
Interesting. So golf. All right. So I know Randy. Look at Randy perking up and trying to pay attention now.
I never pay attention. Come on.
So golf. We've done some bracket challenges in golf, and the funny thing about golf is I never realized how many 1 and 2 stroke swings there were in any one round.
Right.
Literally, guys can be up a stroke and then they're down a stroke, down 2 strokes, then 3 holes later they're back up a stroke. I never realized that until I started betting it the last couple of years. How are you handicapping golf?
So let me preface by saying I never. I don't want to say never. Pre-flop, before the tournament starts, I don't even bother trying to pick a winner.
Yep.
I will wait until the second round's over. So, Friday night, I might dabble a little bit on who I think will win the tournament. But where I really focus on is the one-on-one matchups. And I do that to start the tournament a little bit, but I do it consistently every day because, each day they'll come out with different matchups.
Yep.
And so every day I'm looking at the matchups.
So are you looking back on past history of those matches, like how those guys have fared against each other previously? Is it the golf course? I mean, how are you picking winners?
Yeah, I'll definitely look at their experience with the golf course, but a lot of it in golf, I'm a golfer too, and I know a lot of it goes from, if you feel familiar with a course, if there's a course that you like, you just automatically think you're going to play better there. And I think, they feel the same way. I think, when you listen to their interviews, I don't really look at the past history between the two of them, but I definitely look at momentum. I think momentum in golf has a lot to do with it. And then
has a lot to do with every bet.
That's true. And then I just look for cases where someone's really overrated. So like the big names, let's say, for example, Phil Mickelson, right? Or a lot of times he's just super overrated because of the name. And, he's, as we all know, he's 51 years old and he's like trying to go up against 25-year-olds. I mean, it's not really going to happen. Right now, one that I went on for the weekend yesterday was over in Saudi Arabia because a lot of the pros are playing over there and the Asian tour this week. And Cameron Smith, who, if you watch golf, you're probably familiar with it. But if you don't watch golf, you might not know him. But he's going up against he was going up against not Brooks. Who's the scientist? His name just slipped my mind.
Are you talking about DeChambeau?
Yes, thank you, Bryson. Okay. He was going up again. I just read the article in Sports Illustrated about him being the scientist. And his name said, yeah, he was going against Bryson, and I knew that Cameron was playing well, and I knew Bryson's the big name going over there. Long trip for him, and so I looked at the scores after the first round, and Bryson's already behind.
Wow. Did we lose him?
Lost you guys there for a minute.
There you go.
So we heard you talking about Bryson. You said he was behind by a couple strokes after the first round?
By like 5 to 7 strokes. Yeah, it looked like he was going to be behind for like 5 to 7 strokes just after the first round. I mean, it's a long ways to travel, and they're getting, these guys are getting paid just to show up, literally. Yep. So I figured, he probably wasn't going to be into it too much.
So next week's my second favorite tournament of the year. So next week's the Phoenix Open. And
right.
A guy that went to ASU, I've been at that course numerous times with a lot of beer and very rowdy. And I love that course and I love the way they play it. I'm looking forward to it, and it always ends on Super Bowl Sunday. Are you a weekly player for golf or only specific events?
No, weekly. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely take a look at the matchups on a weekly basis. Yeah, so I would say, 9 out of 10 tournaments I'm involved in.
Yeah, in a week, how many bets would you say you'd make in a tournament?
Good question. I'd probably say 5 to 6 different matchups a weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that each day, or is that for the entire weekend?
The entire weekend.
Okay.
I'm a golf player as well. So you're pretty much watching all these events while you're betting them?
Most of them. I mean, I don't watch, I don't have enough time to watch all 4 rounds. But
I feel like if you're watching golf, you can usually tell if a player has rhythm and is like getting unlucky, lipping out, or just like short game completely off. So I feel like if you're watching golf, then that definitely gives you a big edge, at least for me in my.
Well, his golfer implodes. DeChambeau is the easiest one to watch him implode. When he hits a bad shot, he's gonna hit 4 more. He doesn't just hit one bad shot. He hits 4 or 5 in a row. He implodes. Yeah. So that would be a kind of a guy that you would want to watch and maybe do the in-game stuff. I don't know too many places that actually do in-game on golf.
Yeah.
Is that a big thing right now? I know that Randy, the Westgate, you had to wait forever at the Westgate for lines for the next day. You couldn't do in game over there, right? I remember going to the Westgate trying to do in game on golf, and they didn't have it.
I think they only do in match betting
Yeah.
in the majors.
Yeah.
That's the way I remember it.
Yeah, I don't. So in game is it for golf? It's boy, that would be something because you
Right.
could sit there and watch it and watch a guy implode and probably pick
You
up some
never
easy
know what a
cash.
bookie's going to put out, though. A bookie could put out anything, right? So, but if you're talking about casino betting, yeah, I think that it's only the majors that does the in match betting.
So without giving away too much, Bolt, when you're in California, and California is one of the places that doesn't have sports books. So when you're making your plays, are you playing in the States, outside the States? What are you using, and what services do you think are good services if you're using offshore? Do you are you a Bovada guy? Are you Bet US? Are you a sportsbook.com? Or are there anything that you particularly think is a good one to use?
I mean, Bovada. I don't use Bovada too much. I'll use like Pinnacle. We have through our podcast, mybookie.ag
Okay.
is one of our sponsors, so I use them a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do they offer? Do you know if they offer in game, or are they similar to what's going on in Vegas, where it's just match by match kind of?
Yeah, it's just match by match. You can in game the winner of the tournament. They'll do that,
Okay.
which is kind of neat, you know. So if you feel like someone's starting to get hot, but you know, golf is just one of those things, like how you kind of alluded to earlier. It can just turn on a dime, you know. So like someone's playing great on Friday, and you're like, oh, this guy's going to win the tournament, and then next thing you know, after Saturday, he's in like 20th place.
What just happened this past weekend? What golfing event? I was watching a golfing event this past weekend, and I think it was Zalatoris.
Yeah.
Zalatoris and Luke List. Randy, did you catch that?
No, I didn't, but I know you always
Holy
pick out those
mackerel.
big dogs and you follow those guys.
I couldn't believe, man. Zalatoris. I was texting back and forth with Joe, Jersey Joe, and he loves Zalatoris. I won that bet, by the way. Taylor Gooch won his tournament first. So, but Zalatoris was playing lights out, and I says he will play lights out until he misses an important putt, because he always seems to miss an important putt. Luke List birdied the 18th to get to 15 under. Zalatoris had to come back to him, and he did. And then he could have won it on the 18th, and he missed a 6-foot putt left. I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. So what happened? They replayed the 18th. Luke List hit one of the best shots he's ever hit in his life. He got it within it was a tap-in birdie. He basically had a tap-in birdie. It was six inches away.
Right.
Zalatoris went up, hit the exact same approach to about 6 feet, almost the exact same line, and he missed it further left. So he lost. He lost it, man. So that's what you're saying is accurate, man. It's crazy with how quickly guys can get on runs and how quickly they can come off them. One guy can go out and shoot 65 one day, and he's up at 71 the next day, and it's just massive. But to be honest with you, when we do our brackets, golf to me is the funnest thing to bet on, because I like to play the guys pre-Thursday and try to get all 4 rounds in matchups, and then I enjoy it for 4 days.
Yeah.
Well, I actually really enjoy sports betting, and it's not my main source of income, so I enjoy it. I'm a very disciplined player, but man, I love betting golf. Golf to me is now the funnest sport to bet on by far, because of the crazy waves and highs and lows that you go through.
Well, and golf and soccer are the 2 rising sports for betting. I mean, those are the ones that are now really coming on in terms of attracting dollars, to the wagers. So
I think as more and more casual fans, as sports betting picks up across the country, and it brings in more and more of the casual bettors, the entertainment seekers, it should even do better, because it is a very fun sport to bet on. It's not over in 2 hours. It's a 2-day, 3-day, 4-day event, or maybe it is 4 hours, or you just do one day and you're picking the winner. So it's just a very fun sport to bet on. Man, I enjoy it a lot. All right, so listen, we've had some craziness going on this week in college hoops. There's a crazy board today. Wait. Oh, here we go.
First of all, we've got to congratulate Drew on basically winning his first match.
First tournament.
Right? Way to go, Drew.
Thank
3-0. That's the way to do it.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Congratulations.
And Drew, don't you remember Tom criticizing you for picking all those road teams? You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
He had two. Wait, hold on a second. He had two home teams and one road team. He's come a long way. Little Jedi has come a long way in just a week. He opened up. And my golden rule is don't bet on a lot of road teams in college sports. He opened up in his first one. He had 3 road teams. He went 0-3. We had to let him know, you're going to keep eating meatloaf if you do that. So we have a little thing that we do about eating meatloaf and eating steak. And if you bet a lot of road teams in college sports, you're eating meatloaf a lot. You're not eating steak. So he's come a long way. And with that said, Randy, Bolt has actually won, I think, some awards in picking some sports. I saw on your Bolt Brady show, Bolt Brady site, you guys have done pretty good picking some games. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, when I first started, I've been doing this for over 20 years, but probably about 10 years ago, I started to get paid for it because people wanted my picks on a regular basis. And when it got outside of my friends, I knew that, I was going to have to prove my numbers. Just my friends already knew, and, they know that I'm not going to lie to them, but people that don't know. So I was looking at places to validate my record. And so there used to be a great website where a lot of handicappers went. This was probably 4 years ago. It was called handicapperswatchdog.com. And it was where you could go place your picks, and then everyone could see it, and the records were all legitimate. And so it was great. So I would just always point people there, and they would always keep track of, who had the best season out of all these handicappers. There was probably 50 or 60 of us every year, and they'd keep track of every sport. And so a few different times I was either the top in football or basketball on that handicapper website.
That's good, man. That's awesome. Listen, if you're at top of the game, listen, as sports betting's picking up, those kind of sites are very good because if you go on any social sites nowadays, there's thousands and thousands of people that call themselves pros. Some are very, very young and don't have a lot of experience. You've been doing this for 20 years. I'm sure you've had some bad beat stories. I'm sure you've had some horror stories, and you've learned. I mean, sure. I think sports betting to me is a lot like life. It's a lot like any business in that you gain a lot of knowledge and experience over a time. And I think you find certain areas where you become very comfortable or very good at. And I think you focus on those areas. So, no, that's very cool, man.
Bolt, I got to know about your name here. I mean, you got the Brady thing going for you, which is a winner right out of the chute. I mean, is your first name Tom, and you just had to change it, to Bolt, so you didn't share notoriety with Tom Brady, or what's the story behind the Bolt?
Well, it was a nickname when for football growing up, because it went from lightning to Bolt because I used to be pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so I played receiver and I returned punts and kickoffs. And so we thought that name sounds a little bit better than my first name.
Okay, I'm not going to make you share it. I mean, is it like the movie Lonesome Dove where you finally reveal that it's Blue Bonnet?
It's better than that.
Okay, good.
All right. So, Drew, what kind of questions do you have for Bolt, Drew? I'm sure you're a youngster. You're in college and getting into the betting game. What do you have questions for him?
Yeah, I mean, I've been probably 2 or 3 years, and it's crazy now. I feel like 20% of the university bets. It's just grown so much. But I mean, obviously, I started with parlays, done with those now, learned my lesson. Recently, I'm starting to look at public betting and where the public is and try to fade that. Do you use that a lot, Bolt? Or
yeah, that's a great question. What school do you go to? Do you mind me asking?
State.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
And 20% of the kids there seem to bet, huh?
Yeah, I have all of my friends I never thought would, and now damn near every single one does. And the ones that I never thought would are now betting. So,
well, you got to tell them about our podcast. You got to tell them about the Bolt Brady podcast. No, to answer your question, that's a great place to start off. I think any handicapper. It's just kind of like I was a stockbroker at one time coming out of college, and when picking stocks, it's kind of like picking plays as well. There's a lot of similarities where, and what you mentioned too is watching where the public is going is one thing to take a look at, but what I'm sure you'll find is sometimes the public is right, and so it is a good place. Like if there's an overwhelmingly amount, I mean, put it this way, if your buddies at Ohio State and let's say tonight, the UCLA Arizona game, and all of them are like, I'm on UCLA, I'm on UCLA, I'm on UCLA. If I was you, that's when I'd go over to my computer and go on Arizona, right? Yeah. So there is some truth to that, and that's why I love talking to my friends that aren't familiar with betting, but they think they are. I love getting their opinions, and I can think of like 3 friends off the top of my head that if they all 3 are on the same team, I'm automatically going the other way. I don't even need to handicap anything.
Well, we got a guy in Vegas we call Vegas Dave that we do the same thing with.
Right? Oh, I know Big Vegas Dave. We've talked about him before on our podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, Vegas Dave. He's funny. I don't know if you guys knew, we talked about this a few weeks ago. He put up a billboard in Las Vegas. Did you hear about this?
No.
It was he bought a billboard and it said the GOAT, right? Like the greatest of all time. And it had a picture of half his face and half of a goat. And that was just the billboard, like, with his Instagram handle.
So I've got a Vegas. So Vegas Dave, the only way I heard about him was when I was actually in FanDuel. So I was commuting a lot to go to FanDuel when it first opened from Rhode Island. So I was there, a lot, and met a couple guys. We were all hanging out, having beers. And I never forget this. It was the Kansas City and the LA Rams game that got moved from Mexico, ended up being in LA that night because of all the fires. This was like 3-4 years ago. Game ended up 54-51. It was I think it was the highest scoring game of all time.
Yeah, I remember that.
I went down early, sitting there having some beers. Jersey Joe's there. I'm talking to Jersey Joe, and guy comes in. He's all happy. He's like getting ready to throw up a bunch of cash on a game. He's like, I gotta wait. And I said, what are you waiting on? And he goes, Vegas Dave. I go, who's Vegas Dave? He goes, he's the guy that gives us picks. I'm like, well, yeah. Well, he goes, yeah. And he's got like a 80 unit or something play. I'm like, what do you mean an 80 unit? What does that mean? He goes, oh, it means it's not going to lose. I says, okay. So before the game happened, it was the Rams were -3. The Rams were -3.5 when it first opened. So we're sitting there. He goes, oh, it just came in. I says, oh, yeah, what do you got? And the Rams were the number 1 team in the league. Kansas City was the second best team in the league that year. And he goes, he's telling me to take the Rams on the money line.
On the money line.
And, yeah, I just laughed. I absolutely laughed. And I'm laughing. I'm like, he's like, what are you laughing at? And I said, say that one more time. When you just paid a guy to tell you to do. And he goes, to take the Rams on the money line. And I looked at Joe, and Joe kind of chuckled. I go, you get it, right? And he goes, yeah. I go, you're paying a guy to tell you to take the number 1 team in football at home on the money line.
Right.
You need to pay a guy to do that. You should never bet.
Right.
And afterwards, the funny thing was it covered because they won by 3, right?
Yeah.
But I ended up telling the guy, I go, listen, I'm going to wait in game and see if the Rams punch in an early touchdown, this might go up to 7 or 7.5. I'm taking Kansas City plus the 7.5. So that's what happened. And so I had Kansas City plus 7.5, and it was one of the most funnest games ever because as we're watching it, you're watching FanDuel's over under go 89, 90, 91.
Oh, wow.
I'm sitting there going, this is an over-under in an NFL game at 95, 96, 97. They capped it when it went up to 101. They finally capped it.
Wow.
But it was in play. The thing was skyrocketing. You're watching the craziest thing happen. That guy's all happy. He probably just went and paid Vegas Dave another $150, $200 for telling him. And the next week he probably lost, and now he's down money.
Right.
That was my thing about Vegas Dave. I'm like, man, is he really telling you the right things if he's telling you to take the number 1 team on the money line at home? I mean, like
he does that all the time.
Really?
He'll give them worse than that. It'll be like money line like -1200, and he'll give it out. It's unbelievable.
And that's like a 150 unit play. So
Right.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and you see, so this is what I was telling you. This is actually going on TikTok right now. TikTok has this all over the place. There are guys on there that say at 15 units, and then they give out 8 different plays for the day at like 15 units. And I'm asking myself, wait a second, aren't they over 100% of their money right now? And it's
Right.
crazy that they're giving out these crazy things. And I'm like, boy, this is insane. But that's why I like talking to people that that are disciplined, and they do it the right way, and they do it over a period of time, and they can prove that they win. Because I think that there's definitely a market for them. Because the, some of the people, and this is what we've broken down. I always say there's 4 types of sports bettors. There's the casual person does it for fun. There's the professional, and I think a professional is a person that probably makes about $200,000 or more a year and can do it for 3 consecutive years. I call them professionals. There's the habitual. They do it probably a little too much, but it doesn't affect anybody else. And then there's the degenerate, and they affect everybody. They're running around the sports book borrowing $25. They're running around, and I'm like, dude, guys, go to these guys that will help you think a little clearer and help you out, so at least you can enjoy the games. And that's
Right.
kind of how I think. And that's kind of how I think. But Vegas Dave, man, that just blew me away. That this guy was a smart guy. He like worked in Manhattan. He was coming over with loads of cash, and I'm like, I can't believe you're paying for that information, my man.
Right.
But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. But have you had a chance to look at today's games?
I have.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we we run this brackets that we do. What are your thoughts on today's boards? What are you looking at? What catches your eye?
Well, you mentioned the big game between UCLA and Arizona, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you look at it all, Arizona has pretty much dominated like all year throughout the Pac-12. I mean,
Yeah.
when you review their games and their scores, I mean, they're consistently beating people by 15 or 20. They went on the road. They beat Michigan on the road. They beat Illinois. So what I'm getting at too is that I think UCLA is in trouble tonight. I know they beat Arizona, like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, not too long ago.
Yeah.
But I think Arizona is going to get some revenge tonight.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
I agree with that too, and I think I think the line's sitting at -7, and my favorite number is 7.5, but for home teams. But I like 7-point home favorites as well. Yeah, I think Manurinth. What's the guy's name, Randy, for him? The wingman, Ben Manurinth or Ben Manurinth.
Yeah, I
He's
don't
going to be. He
remember.
might be the Pac-12 Player of the Year this year. He's U of A's wingman. He's a sophomore. I think he won the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year last year. Listen, they're at home. Tabellis is probably a little healthier this week than he was a week and a half ago. That ankle should be a little better. I agree with you. I agree. U of A is the better. Listen, this is a home and home series. Both teams will win their games at home.
And on the road, Kerr had probably the worst game he had all season when
Yeah.
they played earlier in the year. I just couldn't believe that was the same guy I saw in the Michigan game. But I think that guy, I think he's a much better player at home. I think you're going to see him double digits tonight. I think that's going to be the margin of victory.
And U of A's, they're 11-0 at home too. It's a super always has been a super hard place to go in and play.
Yeah.
So yeah.
They're going to be much bigger than UCLA.
Way bigger.
Coloco and the other guy.
I love that center. Is that Coloco, the center?
Coloco is one of them, and I forget the other guy's name. They got 2 7-footers, but Tabellis is a forward who's a big man who's really good. I expect the bigs for U of A to kind of dominate tonight. I really do. I think they're going to dominate and get their points. It'll probably. I don't think what's his name, Jaquez has turned into a role player for them, and for UCLA. I don't think he'll get his points on the road like he did. He took over that game a week and a half ago against U of A. So
that little point
I love.
Is it Tiger? I forget his last name.
Tiger. Not.
Well, he had a hell of a game at home against Arizona too, and I mean, he'd have to duplicate that on the road. We'll see how that goes.
Well, these two guys, these two teams are both Final Four contenders. At the end of the year, you get both these teams on neutral courts. Both teams have a chance to end up, if they're not playing each other, in the Final Four. Both teams are that good, I think. But again, this is the Conference of Champions, in which is very top heavy. Any other games you're looking at tonight, Bolt?
I haven't looked at the over unders yet. I typically will like to look at the over unders a lot. And like I said, I'm niche real big on in game. I
Yeah.
see something up on the screen here now.
Yeah, boy.
Um,
So this game is the game I'm looking forward to. So this is one
okay,
that a lot of people are going to miss on, I think. So Boise State right now is undefeated. They're going on the road. They're going into Wyoming. Wyoming's actually a pretty good home team. Wyoming's actually a pretty good team in that conference. I believe they're in third behind Boise State and CSU. But they got a guy named Maldonado, I think, that can put up 20. And I love Wyoming at tonight at home. I think Wyoming is a very good play tonight to beat Boise State, and they're
what's
hosting
the
at home.
spread?
One.
It's only
So
one.
yeah, Wyoming's -1. So what we see here in the parentheses, that's what the sport hitters pick'em number is. In other words, if you take Wyoming and you win, you're getting 9.35 points. If you take Boise State and you win, you're getting 9.76 points. And so I love Wyoming at home, and yeah, I look forward to this game tonight.
Did you say? Did you say? Do you know what their records are by chance? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so Boise State is actually, let me go right down here to the Mountain West.
I'm just curious with Wyoming being because it sounds like Boise State has a better record, but Wyoming um,
Yeah,
is the
once
favorite.
so Boise State 17-4, Wyoming 17-3.
Hmm.
But in conference, Boise State's undefeated in conference. Wyoming is undefeated at home, but Boise State's a very good road team. This should be a really good game. But a lot of people, if you haven't been able to stay up, if we're on the East Coast, and so if they don't stay up late enough to watch the Wyoming team or maybe Colorado State team or the Mountain West, there's
Right.
actually you can get some good games and good action, and you can find. To me, it's very top heavy in these conferences. So the top 3 or 4 teams, I always think if they're playing the bottom 4, you're going to see a 15 or 20 point game, and a lot of times you see those lines sitting at 8 or 9. So I love watching these games. But this is a game between the two best teams in the conference, and I like Wyoming at home to knock off Boise State tonight.
There,
Uh,
you mentioned a game. There was one that popped out to me. Gonzaga, because you
yeah,
mentioned about the West Coast,
yep,
and so the West Coast Conference, the WCC. If you're on the East Coast, it's probably pretty rough to try to watch those games because they don't start until 8 o'clock
yep,
Pacific time, right? So 11 back there. But Gonzaga travels into San Diego tonight,
yep,
and super small gym, San Diego. It's almost like a high school gym. I think the line's like right around 22, but Gonzaga tends to struggle there for some reason. I don't think they take them very seriously. And so that might be a game to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, the line's up to 23 now, but yeah, so even better.
Right.
yeah. So it's going the opposite direction. I'm sitting here trying to go through and look at who San Diego has played. I mean, they're competitive in all their games. Yeah, they're competitive. Their first game against Gonzaga was postponed. So the problem with Gonzaga is, like you said, if they don't play to their talent, they play to their talent level. The people that you're playing, instead of beating teams by 40 or 50, they should be beating teams by 40 or 50. We all sit here and when we break down who we think is going to end up in the Final Four this year, none of us think Gonzaga is the same Gonzaga team of old. We don't
Right.
feel like Gonzaga will be that Final Four team. We think that there's other teams out there that when they match up with them, they're not going to match up well outside of the Western Conference. How about this game? Have you guys seen? Obviously, I'm a ASU guy, so I'm a Conference of Champions guy, Pac-12. We got Oregon going into Colorado, and right now Oregon is -2.5 at Colorado. I find this to be a very interesting line. Colorado did just knock them off a week and a half ago up in Oregon. And Colorado's a sneaky team that has a sneaky home court advantage that people don't realize.
Yes, they do.
And they've got a guy this year that nobody's paying attention to, Jabari Walker, who is lengthy. He's like 6'6", 6'7", swingman, gets a lot of stuff going to the rim, but he's Samaki Walker's kid, and he's a hidden gem for a player of the Pac-12, player of the year in the Pac-12 this year. I actually like Colorado at home in this. I like Colorado getting 2.5 points at home against Oregon. It could be a must win for Oregon to help their resume, but I still like Colorado. You guys got any thoughts on any of this?
I grew up in Colorado, and I used to go to the CU Buffalo games
Yeah.
actually. And so I'm very familiar with the home court advantage. I mean, not first of all, you have the altitude to deal with, which is real, and it affects every team and every sport that comes through there. And yeah, Colorado, I totally agree with you. It's a very very difficult place to win, and they've got great fans.
Yeah, it should be packed. That should be a very interesting game. And they got another player that I guess is like a crazy influencer around campus, but Betty. I don't know how to say his name, Batty or Betty. Big dude, like 6'8", but he's got to be like 260, 270. He's a big dude that occupies the middle. They're a fun team to watch, Colorado and Oregon, and I think this is a very big game for both teams. If Colorado is able to sweep Oregon, I think it gets them back in the conversation for the Pac-12, maybe having 4 teams come Selection Sunday. So I think it's an important game for them. But I love Colorado at
I
home.
don't see it, Tom. If I had to pick this game, I'd take Oregon minus a 2.5 for 2 reasons. One, the best coach on the sidelines is going to be on the Oregon side, and secondly, he's going to have lit a fire under them after getting beat on their home floor by a lousy Colorado team. I see Oregon win this game tonight.
I have a good Colorado story for you guys. When I was younger, going to the games, they had a access elevator that the employees used. But then my friends and I learned about it, and when you would take the access.
Oh, he just got screened by the Colorado people, not telling the story. Right?
they want to make sure it doesn't get out.
That's called
keep that in
censorship
house
right there.
Keep the story in house. I'm interested when he comes back. I'm going to ask him about what generation, because are you going back to 5th down Colorado days when Darian Hagan and Eric Bieniemy were running and they had 5th down and ended up being a tied for national champion?
Yeah, I forgot about 5th down. Yeah,
5th down against Missouri, man. They had so. Could you hear us when we were talking?
I couldn't.
Okay.
So one of the things that we were asking about is, when you were up in Boulder and going to the games, we wanted to know about what generation. Were you Darian Hagan or Bieniemy years? Were you around Chauncey Billups? Okay. All right.
Yep. I was. Yep. I was like right when the football team started to get good. I mean, when I was in junior high, and so the football, when I was there, like when I was 13, 14 years old, you could get into the Colorado Buffalo football games for free at halftime. That's how bad they were.
Yeah.
But I got to watch like Barry Sanders play, and I'd rush down to the field. What I used to do, guys, is I wasn't very scared of things, especially if I like wanted to get gloves or hats or something. So I would rush down to the field afterwards, and all the best players, I'd always ask them for like the wristbands and stuff. Yeah. So I did, and most of the time they would give them. Barry Sanders did not. He just kind of looked at me and kept running. But that's what I was getting at the CU Buffalo basketball game. Is there was this elevator that no one knew took you down right by the locker rooms. There was a hallway there. Yeah. And so I would take that down right after the games. And I came across Danny Manning down in the hallway. And that was the year that he was player of the year. And so I had him sign my little basketball. So CU wasn't great at sports back then, except, they started to, but I got to see a lot of players, which was neat.
Yeah. Man, I remember the 5th down. We were just joking around about 5th down. I think that was against Missouri, and I think that's the same year they might have tied for a national championship that year. The 5th down year.
Yeah, that was against Michigan, I believe. But I don't know if that was the year that they won it, because that was with Cordell Stewart. The year that they tied was like 90-91 or something like that.
No, there was a year where they had 5 downs on the goal line and they scored on 5th down. The refs got everything wrong. They got an extra down. Then that same year, I think they tied for like the AP national championship. It was before there was like there used to be like an AP and a USA Today or Coach Bowl voting. back in the late 80s. And there was a year where Colorado got 5 downs on the goal line. They
That's
lost
right.
track of it. They lost track of it. It was crazy. And it led to a national championship for them. So it was really interesting. But so Randy obviously doesn't see things the same way. But I feel pretty good about that. It makes me happy. I love it when we're on the opposite side. Is there anything else you guys are looking at tonight? Any other games you guys are looking at on this board tonight?
Are we doing a take the money and run segment here?
We will in a minute, and we got to get our. I'm actually shooting you guys your invites. We got to get your brackets in, and I'd love to know who you have.
Okay.
Who are you looking at tonight, Randy?
Well, I for my take my money and run, I won't tell you who I picked, but I like the Horizon League game, Oakland versus Northern Kentucky. I think that's going to be a really good basketball game. Oakland's a 3-point dog on the road. So I'm trying to figure out which way I'm going to go on that, but I think I really like Oakland. I think I see them going to win the Horizon League tonight by beating Northern Kentucky.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up the game in your region, which is Wright State against Detroit Mercy. Now, everybody's going to say, who are those teams?
I thought about that one.
It's the number 1 scorer in college basketball going up against the number 4 scorer in college basketball. Mm-hmm. So Detroit Mercy has the nation's leading scorer in college basketball, who led the league last year in scoring, just took over the lead again. And do you know who it is?
No.
It's Antoine Davis. Antoine Davis is Mike Davis's son. Mike Davis was the guy that took over for Bobby Knight, and then he coached there and then went down to Texas Southern. He's now coaching at Detroit Mercy, and his kid is the leading scorer last year, and he's leading again this year. And he's playing a team, Wright State, that's pretty good. That's got a guy named Tanner Holden that dumps in 20 a game. So I've actually watched 2 Wright State games this year, and I thought you would be on that game. I really thought you'd be on that game, Randy. But, yeah, I like Wright State to go in there and beat them up. I like Tanner Holden's chances. I think the guy's going to get. I think Davis is going to get his points, but I think Wright State's going to have a good victory tonight.
I'm going to ask you this like I ask you every week. Did you take that in your bracket?
No, actually, you got your invite. Why don't you take a look at it? Take a look at it.
Well, you don't know this, Bolt, but every week he says, "I love this game," and it's never in his bracket.
Well, you know
doesn't
what?
want to give away his secrets.
My sleeper is tonight. Wagner's playing again tonight. So Wagner is in Central. Yeah, they were on there. Hey, listen, that team can keep winning by 15. I'm happy every time they keep winning by 15.
0-3 night you had with them didn't teach you a lesson about betting those lesser games? Or?
It was 1-2. Hey, never 0-3. It was 1-2. Never 0-3. 0-3 kills your percentages for the month. But yeah, no, it was 1-2. They were the only team that actually won. Sacred Heart lost. There was a week ago where I had Canisius, I had Sacred Heart, and I had Wagner in my brackets.
Both. You hear the names of these teams that he's betting on?
I was gonna say he's definitely off the grid with those for sure.
Oh man. So we have some fun with it, but I'm really surprised, Randy. I thought you'd be all over that Detroit Mercy. Randy, Rick Shaw is from Michigan, so I figured anytime Michigan stuff comes up, the funny thing is we have Michigan Wolverines alum sitting next to an Ohio State student right now. This is the fun of it right now, stirring the pot when they get ready to play.
I'm trying to guide him to the light, but
I saw Harbaugh's coming back. That's big.
Yeah, we got lucky.
We haven't talked about Harbaugh yet. We got to have a little.
Is your dog off the hook? So I named his dog Little Harbaugh because he shits all over the place. But
no, we named him Little Harbaugh because he's an enigma.
That's awesome.
So listen, in my brackets I took Wagner. I've got U of A. I got Wagner, U of A, and Wyoming. Wyoming to me is the play of the night. I think I love those home teams. I do love Arizona minus the 7, but if I'm only taking 1, I'm running up the window. I'm playing Wyoming. I'm playing Wyoming at home minus the 1. I do, and I think there's a lot of value. They actually have a really good player in Maldonado. And Boise State isn't the same team they were last year. They've played bottom. Most of the bottom of the guys in there, they haven't played Colorado State yet. So I could actually see Boise State losing 3 or 4 games over the last 7 or 8. But what are you on tonight? Is there anything in particular you're looking at that's saying I got it? This is the game that's going to be a moneymaker for me.
Well, you're talking college, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean the one that stood out the most to me for college was Arizona for sure. And
yeah,
then, as far as pre-flop before the games start, and then I would say 75% of my plays are in game,
yeah.
actually. Yeah. But
And
I like that one from the start.
Is
any
it mostly over unders in game or also like sides?
I would say the end game, the over-unders are probably like 75% again. Yeah.
So
Mostly over.
if you're going in like pick live betting a certain side, you probably know beforehand like a certain number you're trying to get at.
Typically, yeah. Unless like I'll in game, like let's say sometimes these teams, like in especially college, like they run on emotion so much that sometimes they just come out on fire. Like let's say it happened last night in the Wisconsin Illinois game. I actually took Illinois minus the 7 before the game started, and Wisconsin just got out of the gate like where they were hitting 75% of their shots like in the first 5 minutes, and they were up by like 4 points. And I could and Illinois wasn't playing badly. It's just Wisconsin came out on fire. So I actually in-gamed Illinois some more because I knew it wasn't going to last. And sure enough, they ran them down. And in the second half, they ended up winning by, I think, like 10 or 11, Illinois. So,
Listen, that's a different team with Curabello back. When they have Curabello feeding the big guy the ball, I mean, that changes the whole thing for Illinois. They're actually now a Final Four contender, I think, with Curabello back and playing the way they're playing. I was absolutely shocked when I saw the stat line. I watched the game, and as I was watching it, I didn't realize Kofi was having that kind of a game. I would never have guessed that he had 37 points in that game ever. And when I saw the stat line, I'm like, wow, where did that come from? Because to me, the game was about like Frazier hitting a couple threes and a couple guys for Illinois hitting threes. But seeing Kofi's line, I'm like, holy, he really did dominate this game.
he's huge.
Yeah, he's just a big guy in there. And Curabello is playing like a great point guard. So he's going to start playing like a better and better point guard. The Big Ten, Randy, I think, listen, if I had a vote, it would be the top 6, and Michigan's in 7th place right now. So you're not getting into the tournament. You're not getting into the tournament, Randy.
I'd love to see Michigan get in, but I don't think they're a tournament worthy team right at the moment. We'll see how it goes the rest of the year. But right now, yeah, if I was like on the committee, I wouldn't put them in my.
Those 6 teams are good though. The top 6 teams have a chance to all win multiple games. I think all 6 teams that are going to get in the tournament are going to easily get. I think they'll all get
maybe so, but I think there's only really 2 contenders in the Big Ten really for the title, and I think it's Purdue
and Illinois.
Yeah. I think the rest of them will be good teams, but I think Purdue and Illinois are head and shoulders above the rest.
Bolt, do you focus on a lot of West Coast stuff, or do you focus East Coast stuff? How do you? Is there any conference that you look at that you think you can analyze a little better than others?
I guess I probably follow for basketball. I guess I probably follow the West Coast teams a little bit more. Yeah, I follow the Pac-12, and but I know a little bit about all the conferences. To be honest with you, I don't dig really, really deep into more teams until like March. I kind of, the NFL. Once the NFL ends, that's when I start to dig even deeper into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Drew is sitting there with Ohio State's feeling pretty strong right now about Ohio State, the way they're starting to play a little better. What are your thoughts?
I was actually supposed to go to the game tonight. Got COVID yesterday, and it ended up getting canceled, so it kind of worked out for me. So,
oh really?
Why did the game get canceled?
The forecast was like 14 inches of snow. We've got a lot.
The Ohio State game tonight is canceled.
It got canceled.
It's canceled.
It's snowing right now, but it's supposed to get worse throughout the night. So,
well, there goes my pick of the day. Okay, I gotta go get a new one now. Right.
Well, Iowa +5.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, I was going to take the over in the game. Actually, I like the over 151.
Yeah.
I know the
Randy,
Big Ten. I mean, like last year, I was so disappointed. Like with my bracket, they always look so good playing against each other, and
yes.
then once March Madness comes, these teams that you wouldn't think for. I mean, even last year, like the play-in game was UCLA, Michigan State, and I didn't think UCLA had a chance. And sure enough, I don't know. They just when it gets to the tournament time, it's disappointing a lot.
Yeah.
Conference of Champions. Nobody
Conference.
realized the Conference of Champions. They know how to play their ball. They showed up last year.
They did, and you know what? I think Johnny Juzang is awesome, right? And they beat Michigan too in the Final Eight game. But watching that team, what really struck me was that they didn't get enough credit for their defense. That team was a very, very, very good defensive team, and be interesting to see if they could pull that out again tournament time this year.
So, Randy, again, we do this all the time. So, right now, you're looking at only two teams coming out of that have a chance at the Big Ten, and you think it's Illinois and Purdue.
To get to the Final Four, yeah, that's.
I think the same thing, but I'm thinking Pac-12 versus U of A, UCLA. You don't think there's anybody else in the Pac-12 that can come out of that, do you?
I think I look at the Pac-12 the same way I look at the Big Ten. I think there's a couple really good teams, and there's everybody else. And I think UCLA and Arizona are those two teams.
Bolt, do you play futures? Will you play like a team to win the championship come like before the tournament starts? Will you pick one team and play the future to see if they win it and take that odds, or do you play each individual game?
I definitely play the games, but if I think there's some value on, like for example, in the NFL, it came up a little short, but after the 10th game of the season, the Niners were 5-5, and no one was really talking about them. And I knew a lot of it had to do with Kittle and Debo being hurt, and that's why they weren't playing very well. And so I took a future on the Niners to win the Super Bowl. So if I see something where I can find value, I will that.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's
Did you hedge it this past week? Did you hedge that bet this past week?
I did, yeah.
Ooh, value and hedge. All on the same podcast. Value and hedge. All right. So listen, guys, it's been fun talking. I think we're going to get to our brackets and see who wins tonight and see who has bragging rights on Thursday. Drew, you picked up the win last week. Congrats, man. It was good. Keep learning to stay off of those a bunch of road teams, and you'll start doing more and more.
If you want to win, Drew, don't listen to Tom. There's your lesson right there.
That's the beautiful thing about our app is it actually keeps track of the results. That's the beautiful thing.
Excellent.
So we have some fun with it. All right, so your one play of the day, you're on U of A minus the 7, Bolt. Randy's got to repick his because he wants an over/under of a game that's not happening, which means the under just won, I think. But
I'll take Oakland minus the 3 in the Horizon League championship game. That's
can't be the Horizon championship game. Can't be a championship.
For all practical purposes, it's the championship game. if Oakland wins on the road tonight, they're going to eliminate the only team that can catch them, I think. So
who are they playing?
Northern Kentucky.
Okay, Drew, what's your pick?
I'm on Colorado plus 2.5.
You like Colorado? It's a good pick.
Yeah,
Colorado plus 2.5 at home, and I'm on Wyoming minus the 1 at home. It's going to be fun to watch them. We'll be staying up a lot late to get those in and watch them. And just wanted to say thanks again to Bolt for coming on, man. We'd love to have you on again. I think anybody out there, Bolt, how do they listen or watch your podcast?
Yeah, so the podcast is Bolt Brady and his bro. It really is my brother. And then we're on Twitter and Instagram at Bolt Brady Picks. So
Bolt Brady Picks. And won an awards. You won awards for your picks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's listen, guys, go there, get some insight, get some picks, enjoy the games. The best thing you can do is enjoy the games. And so if someone can help you do that and make some money at the same time, I'm all for it. More power to you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You bet, man. Have a good one. And thank you for being here.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye, guys.